is William Burdis, and I'm a lecturer with the School of Media Arts here at COFA, and my main area is the area of 3D animation, although I cover quite a few other things as well as most of us do, but my speciality is, if you like, is 3D animation. So I came to Australia about 5 years ago now, and I was brought over to work on Happy Feet, the CG movie down at Fox Studios, just down the road, Animal Logic. I was on that for a couple of years as a senior and lead lighting technical director, so that's a long title. Basically making all those penguins look very pretty. I went from there to a company called Chrome Studios in Brisbane, which is a games company working on what were then called next-gen consoles, which are now PS3 and Xbox. And after being there for a year, I decided to come back to Sydney and lecture at COFA, teach at COFA, which is where I've been now for the past 2 years, which is interesting. I've always been creative, and I've always sort of I've done so many things, from audio, from working on CD-ROMs when they were first invented, and it was all very modern. Had a couple of recording studios, made furniture, so very, very varied things, but always within the creative field. And I think it's something that I've been saying a lot today at the COFA Spring Fair, is that, you know, it's not about button pushing. It is about bringing all of these things together. And throughout history, people have had a great understanding, painters have a great understanding of many things: texture, form, colour, light, etc., etc. And why should it be any different now? So cross-discipline, yes, very much so. I would like to see much more cross-discipline happening. I think it's really, really important, whether it's music, whether it's political ways of thinking, whether it's trying out different ways of living, whatever it is, really, really important place. That can only happen with cross-discipline. You're part of a family when you're working in a big production, always, because you work long hours, you are working on the same thing. Generally, we're from other places in the world quite often, so you sort of get this family, you get the Quebecians and the Brits and the Arsenal and, and Liverpool, whatever it is. So you get that lovely mixture of people, and it's really, really nice. It is really, really good, but it's always dynamic working in an environment that's suddenly having to produce something much larger than it's used to. And that's because everybody plays a part in it. It's down to everybody to make that work, because it can very easily not work. And I've been very fortunate in just about every single production I've ever worked in. I've gone into a company that either existed of about 30 people when I've gone there and has gone big, or is in the process of going big. So I've been very lucky like that. So one of the big challenges is to take this as an art form, to actually do new things with it, not letting the technology necessarily dictate, but to actually do new and interesting things. And there's great pressure on people not to do that. Here's a great example of what is happening within my field at the moment. There are packages out there. I'll probably get sued if I name them with what I'm about to say, but basically it enables you to sculpt within the 3D virtual world. So there are all these fantastic sculptors out there sculpting things, and they're all, once again, it's the usual sort of like heroic Vikings and all of this, and Gorgoth the Slayer, whatever, and none of them have genitals, because we can't offend anybody. It's wrong to actually paint in, to sculpt those genitals, and they don't. It's quite amazing. So they have these wonderful sculpted characters, but they won't put genitals in. And to me, that's a tremendous thing to get over, which is the fact that we've denigrated the artist to the point where they can no longer depict the human form. It's quite dramatic. And I know that might sound a bit random, but that's a really good example of where we're going. We're going for this homogenised, safe place. And I think the biggest challenge is to break out of that and actually be individual. One of the great things is that there's some great stuff that comes out of America, some great films and all the rest of it. There's also some complete rubbish. Australia has a history of making very quirky individual films by dint of being so far away from everyone else in the world and having this very sort of centric viewpoint that is either right or wrong, doesn't matter. But what is quite interesting is that there seems this great opportunity to really carry on with that ethos. You know, I did receive an Emmy Honours for contributions to outstanding visual effects for Dinotopia. It was 2 3-hour-long episodes. It's amazing, isn't it? 2 3-hour-long episodes, 2 years of my life. And like, I must make this dinosaur walk. Anyway, so I did receive a nice award for that, and that was basically for running this motion control system that was developed for a kind of backward compatible animation system. Very nice indeed. I must be honest, after working for you know, the past 8 9 years in major feature film, where you know you're doing this great stuff, it's on a big screen, everyone goes ooh ah, and it is wonderful, and they're wonderful people to work with, crew. It's still someone else's film, you know, it's still someone else's vision, and I kind of got to the point where I just thought, well, if I am going to engage at this level of enabling, I think I want to do it with people at a different level, which is, you know, the most obvious one is education. I'm very aware of that adage of those that can do and those that can't teach, which is a real, you know, it's still there, still very prevalent. I often feel I have to go into class and prove myself. Luckily, I'm huge and covered in tattoos, so it's a bit easier. However, that's what motivated me. So, you know, working for other people and with other people, and I just realised that I actually wanted, it's not so twee as saying I wanted to give something back. It was more, I wanted to be part of the solution, not part of the problem that I could see arising. So it's very much more of a personal motivation. What we do tell students is it's a bit like thinking out of the box. I mean, it's a cliche, but definitely there is always a solution, and it might not be a technical solution. Good example of this is we were building these canyons for Dinotopia again, and the software at the time was struggling with what we were trying to do, couldn't work it out, couldn't make it do what it needed to do. So I went down to the basement with a bag of plaster, some wood, some all sorts of things, and I built this huge rock structure out of plaster because I could easily visualise it. I just thought, fuck this, I'm not sitting here trying to make this piece of software in its infancy do what I'm trying to do, because it will not do it. And I went down and built the thing, practically built it. And then we worked out how to get it into the computer, and we scanned it in the end. But it was just a much easier solution than trying to visualise this huge structure that the software couldn't really do. So that's a really good example, and I'll tell people to do that all the time. If you're facing issues, if it's not working, get up, walk away, and do something else, and think of something else, and look at something else. Anything, and the answer will come to you, and it will just be unexpected. But you've got to have that open mind for that stuff to happen. It's not going to happen if you're shut down looking at a computer screen going, isn't going to work. The best outcome, best possible outcome I want for my students is to feel valued and that they have a voice and that they can make a difference. And that's it. I actually don't care whether it's in 3D, whether it's, I mean, it'd be helpful if it's within the creative industry, but I want them to feel valid. I want them to know that there's much more going on than them just sort of, you know, getting a job. Yeah, the best outcome is a free-thinking individual, you know, because look outside, it's tough enough as it is, and that's not helped by people being shut down, closed in. You know, we need understanding, free-thinking individuals, and that's the best outcome. You know, again, it's this responsibility of the artist. It seems to be something that we've, you know, brushed under the carpet. You know, responsibility of the artist, very ridiculous. You know, go and study law or whatever. You know, go and lie to people or whatever for money, great. But not all lawyers do. However, you get the idea. Same with advertising. You know, do we really need that piece of junk being sold to us by creative people? So for me, the responsibility of the artist is huge. To take that back and to actually use it as a mechanism for personal or social change, whatever it is. I always feel it's difficult for me to give advice to someone just starting out because all our paths are kind of different, but I would say, you know, if you're really coming from here, if you're coming from your heart, nothing can stand in your way, nothing will stand in your way unless you place it there. So don't give up, that's the first one. Don't give up, follow your heart. It's really simple. So be patient, follow it, then it will happen. We will. Go on, anything else?